Thank you, guys. I was born to immigrant parents. Wow, let's try that again. I was born to immigrant parents from India who made unimaginable sacrifices for me to stand here today. As a family early on, we lived off of my father's stipend of $600 a month as a teaching assistant. See, my father believed that education was the greatest equalizer, and so that was the top priority in our household. I spent my summers in the library, my birthday money on buying chemistry kits, and learned algebra before it was taught in school. But then things began to shift. I fell in love with hip-hop when I was about 13 years old, and it must have come as a shock to my parents. Here was your sweet, innocent kid walking around the house with his jeans sagging off his waist, wearing senseless amounts of fake jewelry and mumbling random words that happen to rhyme together. And just thinking about it, it's kind of scary. But for me, hip-hop was more than a novelty item. It was the first time that I felt comfortable as a young, brown, first-generation kid in this country that didn't look like the rest of his classmates. As journalist Julian Mitchell for the Huffington Post writes, hip-hop has provided generations of youth with the tools to become triumphant heroes, the blueprint for prosperity, the seamless merger of assertiveness and aspiration, which speaks to the spirit of people from all walks of life. I found a sense of acceptance in the art form that I hadn't found in any of my other activities, whether it be Little League sports or the school debate team. Music taught me that, though I was different, I wasn't alone, and more importantly, that my story mattered. Soon I started creating my own songs along with a friend of mine, and before my 18th birthday, had signed a distribution deal with iTunes to release an album, and in effect created my own record label, Green Street Records. To me, the music allowed me to share my story and perspective with people who were going through similar struggles of finding identity, belonging, success, and their footing in the world. I had found my voice, but more importantly, I had found a purpose. But why is it that so many of us ignore this idea of purpose? To me, it's because it's often overshadowed by our necessity to survive. After all, what good is thinking about a purposeful life if you can't even put food on your table? In order to survive, you need to generate profits, and that often comes at the cost of everything else. But do we have to put the quest for profit before our quest for purpose? When you look back on your life at the end, when it's all said and done, will you be able to clearly identify what your contribution was to the world? Did it exist outside of earning a paycheck, working for a corporation, or being someone's spouse? Today's society is programmed to discourage us from exploring these questions any further. We go to college to get a degree to get a job to get a better job, and so on and so forth. This routine becomes mesmerizing, and we fall in love with the security that's provided by it. And why not? Making money affords us new levels of comfort and luxury in this necessary quest for survival. But as we become dependent on maintaining this lifestyle, we lose focus of why we're here. We lose focus of, we become dependent on this. And so we lose focus of why we're even doing our work. For many of us, our labor only makes someone else much better off, right? When we become co-opted to help someone else execute their purpose, they control us in a sense. Think about it. If we were all intent on living our own lives by our purpose and on our own means, who would do all the other work? All those Excel spreadsheets. That wouldn't be us. But do purpose and profit have to be mutually exclusive? Not always. To me, purpose is defined by your deliberate pursuit of trying to positively impact others and leave the world a better place than when you found it. Because if you're not doing that, then why are you even here? Some of you might have heard of an island off the coast of Japan called Okinawa, which is the home to the world's longest lived people. The people on this island enjoy life, have fractions of the diseases and cancers that plague many of us in the Western world, and the reasons might surprise you. Sure, diet and community play a role, but at the center of it all is this idea of ikigai. Ikigai, which roughly translates to reason for being or sense of purpose. As educator Dan Buettner phrases it, he says, Ikigai is a deeply personal experience which has meaningful trends for each and every person. We have seen that a sense of purpose can actually boost immune levels, lower stress hormones, and help people better deal with the difficulties of life. Well, according to this, if we're purposeful, we can actually extend our lives, reduce our susceptibility to disease, and find happiness in a true sense. But I know what you guys are thinking. Okinawa, some random utopian island on the other side of the world. That has no relevance to me. I have bills to pay, I have loans to cover, and I have a bull market that I need to invest in. The reason I know that is that's pretty much the same reaction my dad has when I tried to explain this to him recently. before he promptly asked me how my 401k was doing. More on that later. When trying to convince my parents to let me attend New York University as an undergrad, I quickly pointed to the city's storied financial history and all the opportunities that would arise from that. In reality, I knew I needed to get to New York to pursue my dreams as a creative person, record label owner, and artist. After touching down in New York, I worked nonstop to build this business, and soon I was traveling the country while still in school, garnering press in major publications, and performing alongside many of my longtime favorite artists. I actually have performed on this stage before. Some of you might have heard of an artist named Wiz Khalifa. If you were to ask him about me, he would say, "Oh yeah, that skinny brown kid that helped me throw my first show in New York City." And he would be right. But despite all my various independent successes, after graduating, I had a lapse of judgment and I decided to accept a corporate job. I had let the allure of profits overtake my desire to lead a purposeful, meaningful life on my own accord. I was miserable. I resigned in about 4 weeks and decided that I would put whatever I had into building my record label. I went broke. I had nothing. I used to eat $1 tacos between studio sessions to keep myself full. But within a few months, I was headed to Japan for my first international tour. See, I gave up on trying to maintain a sense of security and embraced the fear and uncertainty that came with trying to blaze your own path. Now, there's a part of the story I've left out until now, which is crucial to understanding my intense sense of purpose. When I was born, I was diagnosed with a rare form of kidney failure, and doctors couldn't find any cure for it. And so I went through my adolescent and young adult years burdened by the fact that my kidneys were failing me more and more every day. But I never let myself dwell on this too much. I never got down about it. I was deliberate about what kind of thoughts I let filter into my own mind and remained positive in the face of my increasingly dire illness. At around 15 years old, I made a promise to myself. Since I knew that I could perish at any point in time, I would live each and every single day of my life filled with intent and passion, and never allow anything or anyone to dictate my life's course. After leaving that corporate job, I began to routinely travel the world. I had my face featured in major publications. I had my music featured in many commercials. I helped struggling students in Harlem discover a love for poetry. I taught English to kids in a village in Tokyo. I recorded a track with Raekwon from the Wu-Tang Clan. I ate dinner with Nas, and so much more. My dad wasn't impressed still. After many years of grueling traveling and recording, I received another offer to tour internationally. This time it was to my homeland of India. I was ecstatic. This was literally a dream of mine. But at this time, my health had drastically deteriorated, and I was in the end stage of kidney failure. Now, to give everyone some context on kidney failure, a common test to measure the health of a kidney is to calculate the levels of creatinine in the body. The lower the number, the better. So most human beings have a level of about 0.8 to 1.0. My level at the time of this tour was 6.5. My doctor was incredulous. He said most people at this number are unable to walk, unable to move. Many of them are on dialysis, and some of them are dead. How are you able to go on tour right now? And here it was. My glowing sense of purpose, or ikigai, was literally defying science and keeping me alive. I ignored every warning that he gave me, and I proceeded to hop on the plane and to go on tour. On that tour in India, I was reminded of that promise that I had made my younger self of living every day with intense passion and purpose. My proudest moment in India was after finishing a video shoot in a village in Calcutta. My team and I decided to pool our money together to buy the kids in the village brand new cricket supplies. They proceeded to hit all of our tennis balls onto a roof, but it was worth it nonetheless. After returning home, I fell extremely ill and had to be hospitalized. I spent many harrowing months in the hospital fighting for my life, fighting for a kidney transplant. Eventually, I was able to receive a transplant. The donor was my 401k loving, hip-hop disapproving father. See, after recovering from my transplant, I devoted myself back into my music full-time, and within months, my story and music video were featured on MTV. See, I believe we can all find our true sense of purpose. It doesn't have to be some grand scheme to save the world, but rather something that's very individualistic to you and speaks to you in your essence. But how often do we sit and identify what this is? More importantly, how often do we put this before our quest for profit? Take it from me, life is too short to be thinking about anything else. If you are not working to your personal fulfillment every single day, I challenge you to stop. I challenge you to reassess, to identify what it is that makes you tick, and to start afresh tomorrow. Seriously. See, circumstances will always exist to prevent us from pursuing our dreams. I traveled the world for years with a partially functioning kidney and a mother that prayed way too much for her own good. But the experiences I had, the people I was able to impact, the sushi I was able to eat, far outweigh any amount of money that I could have sitting in the bank right now. See, those experiences helped me create a depth of understanding about life that allowed me to never have to run the rat race, but rather my own race. And that, to me, is invaluable. See, I never gave up on those tenets of education that were bestowed on me as a child. I just decided to go about it in a different way. In effect, I learned so much more. Living a life in deliberate pursuit of your passion is challenging, but it's rewarding. Was I scared at times? Yes. Did I struggle? Most definitely. But I had a hunger to survive, to succeed, and to execute my vision. Today, I hope I was able to provide you guys a spark to ignite that flame inside of you. Thank you and God bless.